Hello once again, and thank you for joining us in my Lessons from Leaders, or episode number 1 on YouTube. Today, I have my guest, Paul Roy, who was my manager who I met 24 years ago. And he's played a big role in my business life. And I felt he was the person who I should bring in first of all to kick off this series. Paul, welcome to Lessons from Leaders.
Well, it's a joy to be here, Emo. It's been a pleasure to watch you develop who you are to become even better and to spread your joy and knowledge amongst your people who follow you and want to learn from you and respect you. So it's a joy to be here, Emo.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now, Paul, could you just tell people how we met so many years ago? I had a little bit more hair back then, and I think you did too, but tell them.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I bumped my head quite a number of years ago and left being an entrepreneur and went back into the corporate world. And, the world of grinding gears and people and personalities and serving many bosses. Um, but I did look after this division of a large company in Eastern Canada that was looking for some technology e-commerce people. I was training the sales staff for Atlantic Canada, and in comes this application from this gentleman who had recently moved and emigrated to Canada, but who had all of these skills. And I read them and I said, I need to meet this guy. And when I met Emo, you had this sparkle in your eye. You had this thirst for knowledge. You had this honesty of saying, look, I don't know everything. All I know is once I get this, we can do this. I can do this. And that humility and not having all the answers proved to me that you had the attitude, which was the number one thing to take on this job. And then we had this wonderful journey together of expanding the areas of this company, to which, did us both well for a number of years. So
Sure.
thank you, Emo, for asking me how I met you.
Yes, and well, thank you for pulling me into the fold of the company at that point in time.
Yeah.
That has set so many things in motion that have brought me to where I am today. So now, since this series is on leadership, maybe I should start by asking Paul, what does leadership mean to you?
That's a great question. Because a leader shouldn't have to say, I'm the leader.
Right.
You generate followers by how you lead by example, how you communicate with your people, allowing people to grow and flourish and blossom. And, I think back of the Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence Others.
That's a great book.
And some may think, well, it's manipulative. And I don't believe it's manipulative, because if we ask people questions genuinely about who you are and what makes you, that it's about them, it's not about us.
Right.
And so many times, and we talked about, what happens at networking events. And so often somebody will say, well, what do you do? And then you go into parrot mode and you squawk off everything that you do. And maybe the best thing to do in a networking event is to say, what brought you here this evening? What is it that you do? And stop talking about yourself.
Right.
And, so that's a step one of a leader. How you have conversations, whether it be direct reports or somebody that works above you, because the hardest part about being a leader or a business owner is people. It is the hardest job. You can say it's sales or you can say it's this, but you can't grow from being a 1 person to a 3 person to a 10 person, 50 person firm without having good people skills.
Right.
And if you're authoritative and you don't communicate, you will continue to struggle. And I see this, Emo, in my coaching and consulting business when I'm working with business owners, and they're kind of stuck at that 9, 10, 11, 12 employee thing. And they say, Paul, I can't get to here.
Right.
What is it? And often I find that they don't empower their staff. They have their hands on everything. They need to be managing their people
So
and
is
not leading.
that micromanagement?
Micromanaging.
Right.
Exactly. So, so a leader's a good listener. They empower, they lead by example, and you don't have to be the owner. You can actually be a leader and help influence the people that are above us. And so the message is the same whether you are building your company or you're at the junior level going, well, what does this mean to me, Paul? Well, maybe it's about I want to pick the leader who I can follow, who's going to help me.
Right.
That's leadership.
Hmm. So, talking about that, you talked about dealing with people, and of course, with people comes conversations that are difficult. So, do you have any tips or ideas to share on how to handle difficult conversations as a leader, as an effective leader?
First thing I do is remove the question. If somebody has made a boo-boo or it's cost the company money or whatever it is the last thing I would do is to challenge the individual and go, why did you do that?
Right.
Because then that's judgmental.
Okay.
And if you go and ask the question, for example, how is it that you came to the decision to do what you did?
Right.
Then you haven't challenged them. You haven't said you made a bad decision. How is it you came to make this decision? So
Right.
then you get the reason why they did it, and they will share the emotional piece of why they did it.
As opposed to trying to defend the position.
Exactly.
Right.
That's it. So more of how and less of why,
Interesting.
because how pulls the emotion, you know. And also, when you look at these things and going where you've got failed expectations,
Right.
and you need to have a conversation with a difficult employee or somebody that's done something. And I always look for neutral ground. And what I mean by that, if I'm on my side of the desk and your direct report is on the other side of the desk, I'm in a position of authority and I own the meeting. And one thing that I learned to do that if you have an office or if you have a separate room that you can go to, or I would move my chair to the side of my desk and have the conversation across the corner of the desk and not across the desk, that I open the door for a meaningful conversation.
Right. As opposed to an authoritative or dictatorship type conversation.
Exactly.
Right. Wow. Now you mentioned something, a good point there about failure and all. And one of the things I learned from you was how, again, as you said, failing is not it's a learning. Um, I guess it's a learning tool because
Yes.
you fail, you learn, you go on, you fail, you learn, and that's how you keep on moving up. I
Yep.
think that if you're scared to fail, then you probably wouldn't do anything and wouldn't amount to much because
Yeah.
of that, right? Is it nothing ventured, nothing gained? So, what are your thoughts on that? On what failure is and how it can be used to best benefit?
Well, you can manage the risk, when you do this, because if I learned something from, a friend and somebody used to sail with and somebody who admire greatly, Henry Demone, who was the head of National Sea Products.
Okay.
And, and Henry moving his way up through the corporation, went overseas and whatever. And what Henry said when I listened to one of his talks one evening, he said, I just put my hand up and said, I'll do that. And then if you want to climb and you want to become a leader, but followed by that, when you get into the conversation, is I don't have all the answers,
Right.
so I may need your help, but I want to make this succeed for you and the company. And you take it away from being about me, but about the collective.
Right.
And it's, but don't be afraid to put your hand up and say, yeah, I'll do that. And once you're the leader, you need to recognize these people who do that. But the other thing is, and I know we talked about certain things we talk about is because it's near impossible to make the perfect hire,
Right.
right? As a leader, we need to hire people. If we're going to grow, we need to do these things and to do it. And so picking the right people is one of the biggest challenges of leadership.
Right. Now, there's something you mentioned there, which I'm going to bring up here. Um, now, and maybe I'll come back to that. But one of the first things is I know that you've had this fire in you since I met you. Um,
Mhm.
how do you stay motivated to keep at this level all this while? What drives you, Paul?
Oh, gosh. I love people.
Okay.
I love to build things. Um, for a long time, I had this mantra that I love to build businesses, but I didn't like to run them because the excitement it was in building them.
Right.
And and at some point, you have to have a reality check. But you know, serial entrepreneurs aren't people that just start a whole bunch of businesses and they all run out here like crazy. Serial entrepreneurs build systems. In other words, I built a company doing this block, this block, this block, this block. Now I know that this works. I can go and do it again.
Right.
And so it comes back to the delegation or actually taking what you've learned and repeating it, the
Right.
old rinse and repeat. I don't know if that answers your question fully, but it's from my perspective, I love people, I love growth, um, but I get my energy from good people, people who don't pull my energy, but people who fuel my energy,
Right.
such as the day that I met you.
Oh. And the day I met you too, right? I don't know if you
Yep,
remember, but you took me. I was talking about a lot of firsts. So first time I went golfing, Granite Springs,
yep.
um, and I thought, wow, this golfing thing is something else because there was food. Like, I had tennis rackets in my trunk, but they gave me everything I needed and fed me twice, right? And I got to drive the cart. The first time I went sailing or racing, is that what it's called? When we went on the
Sailboat racing, yes.
Yeah. When I was on the edge and there was all kinds of rope. I don't even know the terminology,
Yeah,
but yeah. So what that's called sail racing, is that
the sailboat racing, yacht
sailboat?
racing, yes.
Yeah. So I figured it was probably a 27 footer, the one we went on, was it?
That one, that particular day, I think was 36 footer.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's pretty good. So it was just
Yeah,
so many things when I look back. And again, part of autonomy or empowering me was you let me go to those big companies out of province. Sometimes I flew to get there. And I got to
yes,
talk to, the C-suite, and you weren't there, right? And I find now it's just easy for me to go into any office and talk to anybody because Paul gave me practice, right? And I don't know, what do you have to say about that? I mean, was that
well, because I trusted you and that you I felt that you and I were both on the front edge of this kind of technology wave. And if
right?
you said 25 years ago, it may seem like Lego to today's current technologists, but
Yes,
at that time it was kind of cutting edge, where we were injecting the opportunity or offering the opportunity, for better choice of words, for our customers to actually log in, pick
right.
choice what they want, return items. So it was
Yeah.
new. I've always loved new things.
Right,
And and it was a way to differentiate. Because if we walk and talk and smell like everybody else, we
right,
can't differentiate.
right.
So if it's more about the why, if you enter we do this because more than this is how we do it. And so much of society today focuses on this is how you do it. But if we take it back to we do this for you to save you time, to increase accuracy, we made it about them, even though it was our new technology.
And of course, because it was about them, they could see the value, and then it made it an easier sell. Yeah.
If we make it about them, they will listen, they will pay attention. And it's a phrase that I learned from my wife, who's a therapist, and it's called attention direction others,
Okay.
not attention direction self. So
Right.
if our attention is on others and what their outcome is, we will succeed.
Now, how can we take that philosophy and imagine somebody was coming to like quite a number of my audience are young people, so between 20 and 35. What can we tell them about this when coming into a new company in thinking about others as opposed to themselves when first presenting to a company? What can they do?
Well, that's a good question because we, the biggest thing that I can pass along to your younger audience or the upcomers, the students who are moving into the workforce, dreaming about owning their own business is you don't go in going, I want to come away with a salary. You know, that I need to come away with this is to take a longer term view. And if you take the longer term view, I've learned from experience, is that will come sooner to you than you might think.
Right.
But if you take the job and going, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, I'm going to make a decent salary, and I'm going to prove what I can do. And it's not what you can extract from them. What can they do for you? It's about what can you do for them. And if they don't return the effort and the energy and the knowledge and the love that you put into this position, well, then it might be time to move along. But one thing I have learned in owning the companies or leading larger organizations that I've done is that good people will come and go. And that if some of your, say, students or people that are moving up through, if this is a step on your ladder to be better,
Right.
and it's a 2-year or a 3-year gig, that's okay. Don't
Right.
make it a 6-month gig, but make, that what can I learn? So when I came out of high school and I knew I wanted to be a business owner, what do I need to be able to do? I need to understand money. I took a job as a bill collector. Then I took a job as a loans officer. Then I took a job as an insurance guy. Then I took a job selling group insurance to corporations. These were all things that I put in my toolbox. 5 years later, I buy my first company. So is 5 years a long time? If you're coming out of university, you're coming out with some knowledge, but there's still an apprenticeship piece
Right.
of this. Just because it graduated doesn't mean you have the answers. You have the knowledge. Now you have to apply it.
Yeah, I find that yes, I say sometimes you stay long enough to really learn something from there. And part of that learning could be what you like and what you don't like in the way you want to work or the way you want to do business.
Exactly.
Or you could even learn how people run businesses and see how they're treating customers and how the customers respond to the way they're treating them. And so you
Yes.
make it's almost like you're getting paid to learn so you can use it, to improve
Exactly.
later, right? And you can't do that if you're just there for 3 months. Sometimes you have to be there a little longer, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and if I can share this, because from an employer's aspect or from and somebody looking to be hired, is that it takes if I answer the question this way, they might hire me.
Right.
And I can tell you, if you don't answer honestly, if you are in need of this job to pay the rent or do whatever it is, and you'll say what needs to be said to win the job, you will fail.
Right.
Guaranteed. because it takes 7 months for the real person to show up.
Right. Interesting.
That you can mask who you are, you can hide who you are, your personality traits or whatever it is, that at some point the real you is going to come out. And if I could have a loony for every business owner I've talked to that told me they were a good judge of character, and the next month they're saying somebody just left. I go, well, I thought you told me you were a good judge of character. Well, it's because maybe they listened to what the person told them and not actually who they are.
Right.
So that's something that I've learned about hiring and firing people, that the real person doesn't always show up in an interview.
Well, sometimes again, I guess people get nervous, and you don't. Um, uh, People tend to shine in environments where there's a little bit less. I guess somebody across the table who's authoritative, that holds a decision into if they move on within the position or not. But so yes, I find sometimes you find the magic that people have after the interview process, right?
Yep.
And
And there is a bit of gut in that. As somebody who hires somebody, there is that gut feeling. For example, that I had from you. But what you did have that you displayed right out in front, Emo, was your attitude. And unless you're a surgeon, a lawyer, or whatever, and that something can be learned, you've got a basic skill set.
right,
Attitude wins the day every day,
right,
every day.
right. It's good. Now, you did talk about something which I believe in, and that's playing for the long game. And I'll give you an example of that. I had somebody on LinkedIn today who said, Emo, I could help you it gave me a very unreasonable short amount of time, increase the subscribers you have on YouTube, right? And I sent a message back to them saying, thank you for the offer, but my subscribers are organic. I'm committed to them. They know what I'm all about. And that's what they know what I'm all about, and I know what they're all about. And they want to be there in my sphere, right? I don't need people who are just there because somebody paid them to do something, whatever. So it's going to take me a little longer, but it'll be worth the wait, right? So I thank them for that, right? Because like anything else, there's always a shortcut to try to speed things in a natural way, which in the end, I find does not bring the long-term results from building a solid base. It's like building a house. You build the solid foundation, and then it lasts for a while. You build, well, I was going to say a shambly foundation, and the next storm that comes takes it down, right? So the long game, I believe in the long game.
The long game is, and I mentioned the term earlier in our conversation about delayed gratification,
Right.
and that it takes time. And if we're looking for instant rewards or short-term rewards, they come with consequences.
Yes, indeed. And sometimes it's the fact that when you understand what your end game is or what you're passionate about, what gets you up and early in the morning smiling, like I was this morning when I knew I was going to have this. That is what makes you make the right decisions to play the game so that you have quality over time. And so you have bigger sustained success over time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
And you know this, if I can just briefly touch on this before you wrap up here, Emo,
Okay.
is that and I know that it's a lot easier to keep a client than it is easier, a lot less expensive to keep a client than it is to get a new client. So if
Yes.
you're going to get a new client, make sure they match what you have to offer and that they will benefit from that
Right.
relationship.
I believe that's the key there, that they benefit, right? And I think that I've always said this, and I think you taught me this also. We are in the business of solving problems. And there's another Paul lesson which I've carried and I talked about 2 days ago. You always said, think like a consultant. When somebody comes to you with a question or a challenge, instead of trying to just make up an idea on an answer on the spot, you come back and say, "That's a great question. I'll get back to you on that." So you go back and do some research and come back with the right
Yep.
answer. So
If you and sometimes, it's not just I'm coming back with the answer, is that why did you ask that question? What
right,
are so if we can kind of peel back the layer of the onion, but you're so right, because helping people is about the outcome.
right,
What's the outcome if you hire me to be your consultant, or what's the outcome if I hire you to be one of my employees?
right.
What is the benefit for you and what is the benefit for me?
Mhm. Yeah,
And without that, it eventually it's a house built on cards.
wise words as always.
Yeah.
So, in trying to wrap up here, takeaways are: it's a long-term game, patience. What are the things? I'm looking at bullet points that we can use to wrap this up. And then after
Oh,
that, Paul, if you could tell me just a little bit about, what you do, and then, the best way to reach you. Um,
okay,
yeah. And then we'll wrap.
great. Thank you. I mean, authenticity wins the day. If we paint a picture about who we think they want us to be,
Right.
that will fail.
Okay.
And we have to know who we can help, who can I help with my skills and my talent and my attitude and energy,
Right.
and then focus on finding those people, because a broad message to people who don't care, who don't resonate with who you are, is
Right.
an immense waste of time. And I'd rather be very successful with this many people,
Right.
this big, than have this many followers that only see this much of my worth. And so it's how can we impact the people that we work with? And how can we improve their lives? And if we can, even if they leave us, they've never left us.
Right. That's true. They keep coming
And
back.
good people, we will hire, or you, the younger audience, some of your audience, and going, as I mentioned earlier, a 2 or 3 year gig to learn this. But as an employer, you want an employer that's going to say, I learned from that individual,
Right.
their energy, and I was fortunate to have them for a year or two, which helped make our company better. And my employees learned from them.
Right.
So if you look at that and go, you can't keep everybody you hire
Right.
because they're all on their journey.
That's true. Wise words.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Paula, this point where you just tell us a little bit about your company, and then we would wrap up. And
Yeah.
yes,
So I'm uh, a business coach consultant, have been full time at this now for 8 years, been at it 12 and part time for about a few years before that. But I work essentially with business owners specializing in contractors, whether it be electrical or plumber. Many of them started with a tool belt and then got lunged into being business owners. Oh, goodness, what do I do now? I'm a
right,
great electrician. How do I run a company? So so there are those people, and then I'm also co-founder of a company called CPA Business Coach, and accountants are business people too. So we are about helping accountants becoming better leaders. How do they manage their firms, their practices?
right,
And it's not about me teaching them how to be a better accountant, or my business partner, Doug Hoffman, how to be a better accountant. Is how do you become a better leader within your accounting business? So to do that, and I've learned one thing, and as you grow up in your business cycle, is I've made a decision at my advanced years that I only want to work with the ultimate decision maker. If I look you in the eye, Emo, and say, we've talked about this, we've figured out your game plan, are you willing to commit? And if emo goes, well, I have to go talk to my boss about that.
Right.
That's not happening.
Right.
So I've chosen that although I'd love to inspire those who aren't ultimate decision makers, at this stage of my life, I only work with people who have control of the decisions that they make.
Right. That's good.
So Paul Roy Consulting, CPA business coach. That's what I do. I've got clients across North America, run mastermind groups for accountants and for business owners. Yeah.
Now, Paul, you have a website, correct?
Yes. Now, I don't have it down in the chat. You maybe put it on the line later if you can.
Yes.
It's cpabusinesscoach.com.
Okay.
And the other one is paulroy.ca.
What I'll do.
Lucky enough to get my own URL a long time ago.
Yes, I will put both of them in the description of the video at the end.
Yeah.
Now, look, Paul, thank you very much for being who you are. Thank you for all the things that you have done for me, the lessons you have taught me along the way, and you still continue to do. I enjoy the fact that every year we meet at least twice, usually at Swiss Chalet. That's where we
Yeah,
typically.
maybe we need to switch to Indian or something else. I don't know, but
Okay, we'll try
chicken works.
Chapatai or something. Yeah.
Thai. I like Thai.
There you go, Chapatai. That's where we'll go next. So, again, thank you for everything, and thank you for being number one in this list. And I look forward to putting this out for people to hear, and so they'll know who Paul is and what Paul is.
Yep.
To me.
And thank you, because you, even these 24 years later, emo, still inspire me. So thank you.
Wow, that was Paul Roy, my manager from way back when. Great guy. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to see more videos like this, where I have a chat with other leaders to learn from them how we can become better leaders in all we do. Thank you.